Well, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. My name's Jasmine, and this here is the last section of the TryHackMe's pre-security learning path. It will be on Windows fundamentals. And just to inform you before you continue watching this video, I will not be giving out answers or going through the labs or simulations. I'm just here to document what I'm doing or what I've been learning so far. So if that's the case, thank you so much for stopping by and you have a good one. So on Windows Fundamentals, it gets hands-on access to Windows and its security controls. These basics will help you in identifying, exploiting, and defending Windows. And first off, this is like an old version of Windows. I think Windows 10. What's out now is Windows 11. So I've tried, what's that? I don't think they even have videos on this on TryHackMe, but it's an older version of Windows, and I had to look up the answers online elsewhere because it was just different from what I've been using, which is Windows 11. Anyways, Windows Fundamentals Part 1. In Part 1 of the Windows Fundamentals module, we'll start our journey learning about the Windows desktop, the NTFS file system, and the UAC, the control panel, and more. I think NTFS stands for New Technology File System, and I forgot what the UAC means, but we'll find out as we go through this. Introduction to Windows, Task 1. The Windows operating system, OS, is a complex product with many system files, utilities, settings, features, etc. This module will attempt to provide a general overview of just a handful of what makes up the Windows OS, navigate the user interface, make changes to the system, etc. The content is aimed at those who wish to understand and use the Windows OS on a more comfortable level. Launch the attached virtual machine. The virtual machine should open within your web browser. If you want to access the virtual machine via remote desktop, use the credentials below. So this did work out for me when I opened the virtual machine, but it was just, I feel like there's a glitch of some sort, because this right here wouldn't show up. So says accept the certificate when prompt, and you should be logged into the remote system now. It does take a while to load. Task 2, Windows Editions. The Windows operating system has a long history dating back to 1985, and currently it is the dominant operating system in both home use and corporate networks. Because of this, Windows has always been targeted by hackers and malware writers. Windows XP was a popular version of Windows and had a long running. Microsoft announced Windows Vista, which was a complete overhaul of the Windows operating system. There were many issues with Windows Vista. It wasn't received well by Windows users, and it was quickly phased out. When Microsoft announced the end-of-life date for Windows XP, many customers panicked. Corporations, hospitals, etc. scrambled and tested the next viable Windows version, which was Windows 7, against many other hardware and devices. Vendors had to work against the clock to ensure their products worked with Windows 7 for their customers. If they couldn't, their customers had to break their agreement and find another vendor that upgraded their products to work with Windows 7. It was a nightmare for many, and Microsoft took note of it. Windows 7, as quickly as it was released soon after, was marked with an end of support date. Windows 8.x came and left and was short-lived like Vista. Then arrived Windows 10. which is the current Windows operating system version for desktop computers. Like I said, this is now actually out of date learning module, so they should update this to like Windows 11. Windows 10 comes in two flavors, Home and Pro. You can read the difference between the Home and Pro here. I'm not going to click that. Even though we didn't talk about servers, the current version of the Windows operating system for servers is Windows Server 2019. Many critics like to bash on Microsoft, but they have made long strides to improve the usability and security with each new version of Windows. And it says update. As of June 2021, Microsoft announced the retirement dates for Windows 10 here. As of October 5th, 2021, Windows 11 is now the current Windows operating system for end users. Yep. Task 3, the desktop GUI. The Windows desktop, aka the graphical user interface, or GUI in short, is the screen that welcomes you once you log into Windows 10 machine. Traditionally, you need to pass the login screen first. The login screen is where you need to enter valid account credentials, usually a username and password for a pre-existing Windows account on that particular system or in the Active Directory environment, if it's a domain-joined machine. The above screenshot is an example of a typical Windows desktop. Each component that makes up the GUI is explained briefly below. 1. The desktop. That's the desktop. Start menu is here. Search box or katana. It's right there. 4. Task view. 5. Taskbar. 6. Toolbars. 7. Notification area. And this is already well known, but I'm just going to go through this. The desktop is where you have shortcuts to programs, folders, files, etc. These icons will either be well organized in folders, sorted alphabetically, or scattered randomly with no specific organization on the desktop. In either case, these items are typically placed on the desktop for quick access. The look and feel of the desktop can be changed to suit your liking. By right-clicking anywhere on the desktop, a context menu will appear. This menu will allow you to change the sizes of the desktop icons, specify how you want to arrange them, copy/paste items on the desktop, and create new items, such as folder, shortcut, or text document. Under Display Settings, you can make changes to the screen resolution and orientation. In case you have multiple computer screens, you can make configurations to the multi-screen setup here. So this is slightly different from Windows 11, sorta. In the Start menu in previous versions of Windows, the word Start was visible at the bottom left corner of the desktop GUI. In modern versions of Windows, such as Windows 10, the word Start doesn't appear anymore, but rather a Windows logo is shown instead. Even though the look of the Start menu has changed, its overall purpose is the same. The Start menu provides access to all the apps, programs, files, utilities, tools, etc. that are most useful. Clicking on the Windows logo, the Start menu will open. The Start menu is broken up into sections. See below. Yeah, I don't want to stay on this section for too long since it's outdated. This section of the Start menu provides quick shortcuts to actions that you can perform with your account or login session, such as making changes to your user account, lock your screen, or signing out your account. Other shortcuts specific to your account are your Documents, Document icon folder, and Pictures folder, Pictures icon. Lastly, the Gear cog icon will take you to the Settings screen, and the Power icon will allow you to disconnect from a remote desktop section, shut down the computer, or restart the computer. In the below page, you can see what each of the icons represents. To expand this section, click on whatever. To the section will show you recently added programs at the top and all the installed programs that are do on in here, that are configured in the Start menu in this section. You'll also see the apps and programs will be listed in alphabetical order. Each letter will have its own section. In the above image, the first box is where the recently added apps or programs will appear. The second box is where all the installed apps/programs will appear. In your VM, which stands for virtual machine, Google Chrome will not show up as a recently added program anymore. Okay. The taskbar, notification area. Oh, told you I wasn't going to show you the answers. You can look them up online. They're somewhere online. And what's that? The desktop GUI. Oh, wait, I already gone through this, sorry. The file system. The file system used in modern versions of Windows is the New Technology File System, or simply NTFS. Before NTFS, there was FAT16 and FAT32, which stands for File Allocation Table, and HPFS, which stands for High Performance File System. You still see FAT partitions in use today. For example, you typically see FAT partitions in USB devices, micro SD cards, but traditionally, not on personal Windows computers/laptops or Windows servers. NTFS is known as a journaling file system. In case of a failure, the file system can automatically repair the folders/files on disk using information stored in a log file. This function is not possible with FAT. NTFS addresses many of the limitations of the previous file system, such as 1. Supports files larger than 4 GB. 2. Set specific permissions on folders and files. 3. Folder and file compression. And 4. Encryption, or Encryption File System, or EFS. If you're running Windows, while it is the file system your Windows installation is using, what is the file system of your Windows installation using? You can check the properties, right-click of the drive your operating system is installed on, typically the C drive. You can read Microsoft's official documentation on FAT, HPFS, and NTFS here. Let's speak briefly on some features that are specific to NTFS. On NTFS volumes, you can set permissions that grant or deny access to files and folders. Their permissions are full control, modify, read and execute, list folder contents, read and write. The below image lists the meaning of each permission on how it applies to a file and folder. So the permission of read permits viewing and listing of files and subfolders, permits viewing or accessing of the file's contents. Permission to write permits adding of files and subfolders, and it permits writing to a file. Reader and execute permits viewing and listing of files and subfolders, as well as executing of files inherited by files and folders, and permits viewing and accessing of the file's contents, as well as executing of the file. List folder contents is what permits viewing and listing of files and subfolders, as well as executing of files inherited by folders only. And modify permits reading and writing of files and subfolders, allows deletion of the folder. Also permits reading and writing of the file, allows deletion of the file. Meaning of folders, meaning of files. Full control permits reading, writing, changing, and deleting of files and subfolders. And what it means for files is that it permits reading, writing, changing, and deleting of the file. How can you view the permissions for a file or folder? Honestly, I feel like I shouldn't keep on with this section here since it's an old version. And when I was doing the virtual machine, it wasn't working out so well. I may have been doing it wrong. So if anybody knows how to do the virtual machine here, just feel free to comment. Feel like I shouldn't even be going through all this because it's different. Okay, what does it say? How can you view the permissions for a file or folder? 1. Right-click the file or folder you want to check for permissions. 2. From the Context menu, select Properties. Within Properties, click on the Security tab. 4. In the Group or Usernames list, select the user, computer, or group whose permissions you want to view. Refer to the Microsoft documentation to get a better understanding of the NTFS permissions for special permissions. Another feature of NTFS is alternate data streams, also known as ADS. ADS is a file attribute specific to Windows NTFS. Every file has at least one data stream, and ADS allows files to contain more than one stream of data. Natively, Windows Explorer doesn't display ADS to the user. There are third-party executables that can be used to view this data, but PowerShell gives you the ability to view ADS for files. From a security perspective, malware writers have used ADS to hide data. Not all of its uses are malicious. For example, when you download a file from the internet, there are identifiers written to ADS to identify that the file was downloaded from the internet. To learn more about ADS, refer to the following link from Malwarebytes here. Bonus, if you want to interact hands-on with ADS, I suggest exploring Day 21 of Advent of Cyber 2. They have plenty of rooms here, which I would go through once I'm done with this. Task 5, the Windows/System32 folders. The Windows folder, Windows is traditionally known as the folder which contains the Windows operating system. The folder doesn't have to reside in the C drive necessarily. It can reside in any other drive and technically can reside in a different folder. This is where environment variables, more specifically system environment variables, come into play. Even though not discussed yet, the system environment variable for the Windows directory is $WinDir $. Per Microsoft, environment variables store information about the operating system environment. This information includes details such as the operating system path, the number of processors used by the operating system, and the location of temporary folders. So this is still kind of similar to Windows 11, I guess. Guess I'd have to go through this. The System32 folder holds the important files that are critical for the operating system. You should proceed with extreme caution when interacting with this folder. Accidentally deleting any files or folders within System32 can render the Windows OS inoperational. Read more about this section here. Note: many of the tools that will be covered in the Windows Fundamental series reside within the System32 folder. Task 6, User Accounts, Profiles, and Permissions. User accounts can be one of two types on a typical local Windows system: administrator and standard user. The user account type will determine what actions a user can perform on the specific Windows system. 1. An administrator can make changes to the system, add users, delete users, modify groups, modify settings on the system, etc. 2. A standard user can only make changes to the folders/files attributed to the user and can perform system-level changes such as install programs. You are currently logged in as an administrator. There are several ways to determine which user accounts exist on the system. One way is to click the Start menu and type Other User. A shortcut to System Settings, Other Users should appear. If you click on it, a settings window should now appear, see below. Since you're the administrator, you see the option to add someone else to the PC. Note, a standard user will not see this option. Click on the local user account. More options should appear as change account type and/or remove. Click on change account type, the value in the drop-down box here. When a user account is created, a profile is created for the user. The location for each user profile folder will fall under C users. For example, the user profile folder for the user account Max will be C users/Max. The creation of the user's profile is done upon initial login. When a new user account logs into the local system for the first time, they'll see several messages on the login screen. One of the messages, User Profile Service, sits on the login screen for a while, which is at work creating the user profile. See below. Once logged in, the user will see a dialog box similar to the one below, indicating that the profile is in creation. Alright, once logged in, sorry, I was going to get coffee, so I paused the video. So now I'm back. Once logged in, the user will see a dialog box similar to the one below again, indicating that the profile is in creation. Each user profile will have the same folders, as few of them are: 1 desktop, 2 documents, 3 downloads, 4 music, 5 pictures. Another way to access this information and then some is using local user and group management. Right-click on the Start menu and Start Run. Type lusrmgr.msc. See below. Yeah, this wasn't working out so well for me when I was trying it out on the virtual machine. Maybe it's something to do with my computer, but I'm a noob. It's in my YouTube name, so if anybody knows what was wrong, feel free to comment, share, tell me how much of a dummy I am. Okay, note, the Run dialog box allows us to open items quickly. Back to lusrmgr, you should see 2 folders, users and groups. If you click on groups, you see all the names of the local groups along with a brief description for each group. Each group has permissions set to it, and users are assigned/added to groups by the administrator. When a user is assigned to a group, the user inherits the permissions of that group. A user can be assigned to multiple groups. Note, if you click on Add someone else to this PC from other users, it will open local users and management. Task 7, User Account Control. I guess that's what it stands for. UAC is User Account Control. Okay. The large majority of home users are logged into their Windows systems as local administrators. Remember from the previous task that any user with administrator as the account type can make changes to the system. A user doesn't need to run with high or elevated privileges on the system to run tasks that don't require such privileges, such as surfing the internet, working on a Word document, etc. This elevated privilege increases the risk of a system compromise because it makes it easier for malware to infect the system. Consequently, since the user account can make changes to the system, the malware would run in the context of the logged-in user. To protect the local user with such privileges, Microsoft introduced User Account Control, UAC. This concept was introduced with the short-lived Windows Vista and continued versions of Windows that followed. Note, UAC by default doesn't apply for the built-in local administrator account. How does UAC work? When a user with an account type of administrator logs into a system, the current session doesn't run with elevated permissions. When an operation requiring higher level privileges needs to execute, the user will be prompted to confirm if they permit the operation to run. Let's look at the program on the account you're currently logged into. The built-in administrator account. Right-click to view its properties. In the Security tab, we can use the users/groups and their permissions to this file. Notice that the standard user is not listed. Log in as a standard user and try to install this program. To do this, you can remote desktop into the machine as a standard user account. Note, you have the username and password for the standard user. It's visible in lusrmgr.msc. Before installing the program, notice the icon. Do you see the difference? When you are logged in as the standard user, the shield icon is on the program's default icon. See below. This shield icon is an indicator that the UAC user account control will prompt to allow higher level privileges to install the program. Wireshark. I have Wireshark and I will get to that and I will make a video out of it. Or several videos, because it's important to have some knowledge in Wireshark or packet scanning when it comes to cybersecurity. Okay. Double click the program and you'll see the UAC prompt. Notice that the built-in administrator account is already set as the username and prompts the account's password. See below. Nope, sorry. I'm really bad at that. After some time, if a password is not entered, the UAC prompt disappears and the prompt does not install. This feature reduces the likelihood of malware successfully compromising your system. You can read more about UAC here. Taskgate, settings, and the control panel. On the Windows system, the primary locations to make changes are the settings menu and the control panel. For a long time, the control panel has been the go-to location to make system changes such as adding a printer, uninstall a program, etc. The settings menu was introduced in Windows 8, the first Windows operating system catered to touchscreen tablets, and is available in Windows 10. As a matter of fact, yeah, and Windows 11 is also touchscreen, of course. This laptop I'm using is touchscreen, but I don't really care for touchscreens. Anyways, as a matter of fact, the settings menu is now the primary location a user goes to if they are looking to change the system. There are similarities and differences between the two menus. Below are screenshots of each. And so that's still a little bit similar to Windows 11. Guess not too much has changed. Adjust your computer settings. This is the control panel. Note, the icons for settings might be different in the version of Windows on your personal device. Both can be accessed from the Start menu. See below. Control panel is a menu where you will access more complex settings and perform more complex actions. In some cases, you can start in settings and end up in the control panel. For example, in settings, start on network and internet. From here, click on Change Adapter Options. Status. If you're unclear which to open, if you wish to change a setting, use the Start menu and search for it. In the example below, the search was wallpaper. Notice that few results were returned. If we click on the best match, a window to the settings menu appears to make changes to the wallpaper. Oop. Ugh. Don't show the answers. It's on the internet somewhere. You gotta look it up yourself. Task 9, Task Manager. The last subject that will be touched on this module is the Task Manager. The Task Manager provides information about the applications and processes currently running on the system. Other information is also available, such as how much CPU and RAM are being utilized, which falls under Performance. You can access the Task Manager by right-clicking the taskbar. The Task Manager will open in simple view and won't show much information. If you refer to this blog post for more detailed information about the Task Manager, if you wish to learn more about the core Windows processes and what each process is responsible for, visit the Core Windows Processes room. Yep, TryHackMe has 800 rooms, and I feel like I'm going to do a challenge to do all of them, if possible. Okay. Again, this was a generic overview of the Windows OS. There are intermediate and advanced topics for each topic or task that was covered in this room. Hence, Task 9 ended with a detailed blog post explaining the Task Manager in great detail. In future modules, we'll cover topics like the Windows folder, the Management Console, security tools such as Windows Defender and Windows Firewall, etc., to name a few. Okay. Windows Fundamentals Part 2. In Part 2 of the Windows Fundamentals module, discover more about system configuration, UAC settings, resource monitoring, and the Windows registry, and more. Task 1 Introduction. We will continue our journey exploring the Windows operating system. In Windows Fundamentals 1, we cover the desktop, the file system, user account control, the control panel, settings, and the task manager. This module will attempt to provide an overview of some other utilities available within the Windows operating system, and different methods to access these utilities. Launch the attached virtual machine if you wish to access the virtual machine via remote desktop. Use the credentials below. These are the credentials: the machine IP, user, administrator. Password is letmein123, exclamation point. Task 2 System Configuration. The System Configuration utility, misconfig, is for advanced troubleshooting, and its main purpose is to help diagnose startup issues. Reference the following document here for more information on the System Configuration utility. There are several methods to launch system configuration. One method is from the Start menu. Note, you need local administrator rights to open this utility. The utility has 5 tabs across the top. Below are the names for each tab. We will briefly cover each tab in this task. 1. General. 2. Boot. 3. Services. 4. Startup. 5. Tools. In the General tab, we can select what devices and services for Windows to load upon the boot. The options are normal, diagnostic, or selective. In the Boot tab, we can define various boot options for the operating system. The Services tab lists all services configured for the system regardless of their state, running, or stopped. A service is a special type of application that runs in the background. In the Startup tab, you won't see anything interesting in the attached VM. Below in a screenshot of the startup for misconfig from my local machine. As you can see, Microsoft advises using Task Manager or Task MGR to manage or enable or disable startup items. The System Configuration utility is not a startup management program. Note, if you open Task Manager for the attached VM, you will notice that the Task Manager doesn't show a Startup tab. There is a list of various utilities or tools in the Tools tab that we can run to configure the operating system further. This is a brief description of each tool to provide some insight into what the tool is for. Note, the selected command section, the information in this text box will change per tool. To run a tool, we can use the command to launch the tool via the Run prompt, Command prompt, or clicking the Launch button. Task 3, Change UAC Settings. We're continuing with tools that are available through the System Configuration panel. User Account Control, or UAC, was covered in great detail in Windows Fundamentals 1. The UAC settings can be changed or even turned off entirely, which is not recommended. You can move the slider to see how the setting will change the UAC settings and Microsoft's stance on the setting. Task 4, Computer Management. If we're continuing with tools that are available through the System Configuration panel, the Computer Management, or CompMGMT, utility has 3 primary sections: System Tools, Storage, and Services, and Applications. System Tools, let's start with Task Scheduler. Per Microsoft, with Task Scheduler, we can create and manage common tasks that our computer will carry out automatically at the times we specify. A task can run an application, a script, etc., and tasks can be configured to run at any point. A task can run at login or log off. Tasks can also be configured to run a specific schedule, for example, every 5 minutes. To create a basic task, click on the Create Basic Task under Actions, which is the right panel or pane. Next is the Event Viewer. Event Viewer allows us to view events that have occurred on the computer. These records of events can be seen as an audit trail that can be used to understand the activity of the computer system. The information is often used to diagnose problems and investigate actions executed on the system. Event Viewer has 3 panes. The pane on the left provides a hierarchical tree listing of the event log providers. 2, the pane in the middle will display a general overview and summary of the events specific to a selected provider. 3, the pane on the right is the Actions pane. There are 5 types of events that can be logged. Below is a table from docs.microsoft.com, provided a brief description for each. The event type error is an event that indicates a significant problem such as loss of data or loss of functionality. For example, if a service fails to load during startup, an error event is logged. Warning is an event that is not necessarily significant but may indicate a possible future problem. For example, when disk space is low, a warning event is logged. If an application can recover from an event without the loss of functionality or data, it can generally classify the event as a warning event. Information is an event that describes the successful operation of an application, driver, or service. For example, when a network driver loads successfully, it may be appropriate to log in an information event. Note that it is generally inappropriate for a desktop application to log an event each time it starts. And a success audit is an event that records an audited security access attempt that is successful. For example, a user's successful attempt to log on to the system is logged in as success audit event. A failure audit is an event that records an audited security access attempt that fails. For example, if a user tries to access a network drive and fails, the attempt is logged as a failure audit event. The standard logs are visible under Windows Logs. Below it is a table of docs.microsoft.com, providing a brief description for each. So an application log contains events logged by applications. For example, a database application might record a file error. The application developer decides which events to record. A security log contains events such as valid and invalid login attempts, as well as events related to resource use, such as creating, opening, or deleting files or other objects. An administrator can start auditing to record events in the security log. System log contains events logged by system components, such as the failure of a driver or other system component to load during startup. Custom log contains events logged by applications that create a custom log. Using a custom log enables an application to control the size of the log or attach ACLs, which stand for Access Control List, for security purposes without affecting other applications. For more information about Event Viewer and event logs, please refer to the Windows Event Log Room. Shared folders is where you will see a complete list of shares and folders shared that others can connect to. In the above image under shares are the default share of Windows C and default remote administration shares created by Windows, such as admin. As with any object in Windows, you can right-click on a folder to view its properties such as permissions, as in who can access the shared resources. Under Sessions, you will see a list of users who are currently connected to the shares. In this VM, you won't see anybody connected to the shares. All the folders and/or files that the connected users access will be listed under Open Files. The Local Users and Groups section you should be familiar with from Windows Fundamentals 1 because it is lusrmgr.msc. In Performance, you'll see a utility called Performance Monitor, or perfmon, PERFMON. Perfmon is used to view performance data either in real time or from a log file. This utility is useful for troubleshooting performance issues on a computer system, whether local or remote. Device Manager allows us to view and configure the hardware, such as disabling any hardware attached to the computer. Storage. I'm going to show you that. Okay, storage. Under storage is Windows Server Backup and Disk Management. We'll only look at disk management in this room. Note, since the virtual machine is a Windows Server operating system, there are utilities available that you will typically not see in Windows 10. So, disk management is a system utility in Windows that enables you to perform advanced storage tasks. Some tasks are 1. Set up a new drive, 2. Extend a partition, 3. Shrink a partition, and 4. Assign and change a drive letter. Services and applications are right here. Recall from the previous task, a service is a special type of application that runs in the background. Here you could do more than enable and disable a service, such as view the properties for the service. WMI, control figures and controls, the Windows Management Instrumentation. WMI service. Per Wikipedia, WMI allows scripting languages such as VB Script or Windows PowerShell to manage Microsoft personal computers and servers both locally and remotely. Microsoft also provides a command line interface to WMI called Windows Management Instrumentation Command Line, WMIC. Note, the WMIC tool is deprecated in Windows 10, version 21H1. Windows PowerShell supersedes this tool for WMI. Task 5 is System Information. We're continuing with tools that are available through the System Configuration panel. What is the System Information? MISINFO32, MSINFO32 tool. Per Microsoft, Windows includes a tool called Microsoft System Information, MISINFO32.exe. This tool gathers information about your computer and displays a comprehensive view of your hardware, system components, and software environment, which you can use to diagnose computer issues. The information in System Summary is divided into 3 sections: 1. Hardware resources, 2. Components, and 3. Software environment. System Summary will display general technical specifications for the computer, such as a processor brand and model. The information displayed in Hardware Resources is not the average computer user. If you want to learn more about this section, refer to the official Microsoft page. Under Components, you can see specific information about the hardware devices installed on the computer. Some sections don't show any information, but some sections do, such as display and input. In the Software Environment section, you can see information about software baked into the operating system and software you have installed. Other details are visible in this section as well, such as the environment variables and network connections. Recall from Windows Fundamental 1 room, the Windows/System32 folder tasks where environment variables are briefly touched on. Per Microsoft, environment variables store information about the operating system environment. This information includes details such as the operating system path, the number of processors used by the operating system, and the location of temporary folders. The environment variables store data that is used by the operating system and other programs. For example, the Windir, WINDIR environment variable contains the location of the Windows installation directory. Programs can query the value of this variable to determine where Windows operating system files are located. And it says click on Environment Variables to see the assigned values for the virtual machine. Another method to view environment variables is the Control Panel, and then there's System and Security, then System, then Advanced System Settings, then environment variables, or settings, system, about, system info, advanced system settings, and environment variables. The detour is over. Let's redirect our attention back to Misinfo 32 and pick up where we left off. Towards the very bottom of this utility, there is a search bar. Please give it a go, select components, and search for IP address. Task 6 is Resource Monitor. We're continuing with the tools that are available through the System Configuration Panel. What is a Resource Monitor, or RESMON? RESMON. So per Microsoft, Resource Monitor displays per process and aggregates CPU, memory, disk, and network usage information, in addition to providing details about which processes are using individual file handles and modules. Advanced filtering allows users to isolate the data related to one or more processes, either applications or services. Start, stop, pause, and resume services and close unresponsive applications from the user interface. It also includes a process analysis feature that can help identify deadlocked processes and file locking conflicts so that the user can attempt to resolve the conflict instead of closing an application and potentially losing data. As some of the other tools mentioned in this room, this utility is geared primarily to advanced users who need to perform advanced troubleshooting on the computer system. In the Overview tab, RESMON has 4 sections: 1 CPU, 2 disk, 3 network, 4 memory. The same 4 sections have corresponding tabs across the top. See below. Resource Monitor. Note that each tab has additional information for each, and image is shown below for each tab. Oh. Task 7, Command Prompt. We're continuing with tools that are available through the System Configuration Panel. The command prompt, or CMD, can seem daunting at first, but it's really not that bad once you understand how to interact with it. In earlier operating systems, the command line was the sole way to interact with the operating system. When the GUI, or Graphical User Interface, was introduced, it allowed users to perform complex tasks with a few clicks of the button instead of entering commands in the command prompt. Even though the GUI is the primary way to interact with the operating system, a computer user can still interact via the command prompt. In this task, we'll only cover a few commands that a computer user can run in the command prompt to obtain information about the computer system. Let's start with a few simple commands such as hostname and who am I. The command hostname will output the computer name. The command whoami will output the name of the logged in user. Now let's look at some of the commands that are useful when troubleshooting. A command used often in ipconfig. This command will show the network address setting for the computer. Each command will have a help manual to explain the expected syntax to execute the command properly, along with any additional parameters that can be added to the command to expand its execution. A command to retrieve the help manual for a command is /?. For example, to see the help manual for ipconfig, you can use the following command: ipconfig /?. Note, to clear the command prompt screen, the command is cls. The next command is netstat. Per the help manual, this command will display protocol statistics and current TCP/IP network connections. And they have a room on netstat that I will get into. In the above image, the line within the red box shows us an example syntax for the command. The structure tells us that netstat command can be run alone or with parameters such as A, B, E, etc. When any of the parameters are appended to the root command, netstat in this case, the output changes. Play with a few to see for yourself. The net command is primarily used to manage network resources. This command supports subcommands. If you type net without a subcommand, the output will show the syntax for the root command, showing a few of the subcommands you can use. For the net command, to display the help manual, /? will not work. In this case, you will need to use different syntax, which is net help. So if you wish to see the help information for net user, the command is net help user. You can use the same command to view the help information for other useful net subcommands, such as local group, use, share, and session. Refer to the following link to see a comprehensive list of commands you can execute in the command prompt here. Task 8 is Registry Editor. So the Windows Registry, per Microsoft, is a central hierarchical database used to store information necessary to configure the system for one or more users, applications, and hardware devices. The registry contains information that Windows continually references during operation, such as profiles for each user, applications installed on the computer, and the types of documents that each can create, property sheet settings for folders and application icons, what hardware exists on the system, the ports that are being used. Warning, the registry is for advanced computer users. Making changes to the registry can affect normal computer operations. There are various ways to view/edit the registry. One way is to use the registry editor, or is regedit, regedit. Refer to the following Microsoft documentation here to learn more about the Windows registry. Task 9, Conclusion. Recall that the tasks covered in this room were some of the tools that can launch from misconfig. Throughout the room, commands and shortcuts were shared for the utilities. This means you don't have to launch misconfig to run utilities. You can also run some of these utilities directly from the Start menu. See below where some of the utilities can be found. Some of the tools listed in misconfig that weren't mentioned in this room were either covered in Windows Fundamentals 1 or were left for you to explore on your own. Windows Fundamentals 3. In Part 3 of the Windows Fundamentals module, learn about the built-in Microsoft tools that help keep the device secure, such as Windows updates, Windows security, BitLocker, and more. Task 1, Introduction. We will continue our journey exploring the Windows operating system. To summarize the previous two rooms, in Windows Fundamentals 1, we cover the desktop, the file system, user account control, the control panel, settings, and the task manager. In Windows Fundamentals 2, we covered various utilities such as system configuration, computer management, resource monitor, etc. This module will attempt to provide an overview of the security features within the Windows operating system. And then it's basically repeating itself from the previous sections, starting the VM. Task 2, Windows Updates. Let's start things off with Windows Update. Windows Update is a service provided by Microsoft to provide security updates, feature enhancements, and patches for the Windows operating system and other Microsoft products such as Microsoft Defender. Updates are typically released on the second Tuesday of each month. This day is called Patch Tuesday. That doesn't necessarily mean that a critical update/patch has to wait for the next Patch Tuesday to be released. If the update is urgent, then Microsoft will push the update via the Windows Update service to the Windows devices. Refer to the following link to see the Microsoft Security Update Guide here. Windows Update is located in Settings, see below. Tip: another way to access Windows Update is from the Run dialog box or CMD by running the command, which is control/name Microsoft.Windows Update. In the attached VM, there are a few things to highlight. The Windows Update settings are managed. Typically, home users will not see this type of message. 2. There are no available updates available for the virtual machine. The attached virtual machine does not have internet access to communicate with Microsoft to obtain new updates. Throughout the years, Windows users have grown accustomed to pushing Windows updates off to a later date or not installing the updates at all. Various reasons cause this action, one being the fact that a reboot is typically required after a Windows update. Microsoft notably addressed this issue with Windows 10. The updates can no longer be ignored or pushed to the side until forgotten. Windows updates can only be postponed, but eventually the update will happen and your computer will reboot. Microsoft provides these updates to keep the device safe and secure. Below is an image showing how a restart required looks and the several options available regarding scheduling the restart. Oh, try not to show answers. Task 3, Windows Security. Per Microsoft, Windows Security is your home to manage the tools that protect your device and your data. In case you missed it, Windows Security is also available in Settings. And it looks very similar to Windows 11. In the above image, focus your attention on protection areas: virus and threat protection, firewall and network protection, app and browser control, and device security. Each following task will briefly touch on these areas. Before proceeding, let's provide a quick comment on the status icons. Green means your device is sufficiently protected and there aren't any recommended actions. Yellow means there is a safety recommendation for you to review. Red is a warning that something needs your immediate attention. Click on Open Windows Security. Note: since the attached VM is a Windows Server 2019 edition, it looks different from the Windows 10 Home or Professional edition. The below image is from Windows 10 device. Next, we'll look at virus and threat protection. Task 4, Virus and Threat Protection. Virus and threat protection is divided into two parts: current threats and virus and threat protection settings. The image below only focuses on current threats. Current threats, which are scan options. One is a quick scan, checks folders in your system where threats are commonly found. Full scan checks all files and running programs on your hard disk. This scan could take longer than 1 hour. And custom scan, choose which files and locations you want to check. Threat history. The last scan, which is Windows Defender Antivirus, automatically scans your device for viruses and other threats to help keep it safe. Quarantine threats have been isolated and prevented from running on your device. They will periodically be removed. Allowed threats. Allowed threats are items identified as threats which you allow to run on your device. Warning: allowing an item to run that has been identified as a threat only if you are 100% sure of what you are doing. Next is virus and threat protection settings. Virus and threat protection settings. Manage settings. Real-time protection is what locates and stops malware from installing or running on your device. A cloud-delivered protection provides increased and faster protection with access to the latest protection data in the cloud. Automatic sample submission: send sample files to Microsoft to help protect you and others from potential threats. Controlled folder access is what protects files, folders, and memory areas on your device from unauthorized changes by unfriendly applications. And exclusions are Windows Defender Antivirus won't scan items that you've excluded. Notifications are Windows Defender Antivirus will send notifications with critical information about the health and security of your device. Warning: Excluded items could contain threats that make your device vulnerable. Only use this option if you're 100% sure of what you're doing. Virus and threat protection updates. Check for updates, like manually checking for updates to update Windows Defender antivirus definitions. Ransomware protection is like control folder access. Ransomware protection requires this feature to be enabled, which in turn requires real-time protection to be enabled. Note, real-time protection is turned off in the attached VM to decrease the chances of performance issues. Since the VM can't reach the internet and there aren't any threats in the VM, this is safe to do. Real-time protection should definitely be enabled in your personal Windows devices unless you have a third-party product that provides the same protection. Ensure it's always up to date and enabled. Tip: you can perform on-demand scans on any file folder by right-clicking the item and selecting Scan with Microsoft Defender. Task 5 is firewall and network protection. What is a firewall? Per Microsoft, traffic flows into and out of devices via what we call ports. A firewall is what controls what is and more importantly, isn't allowed to pass through these ports. You can think of it like a security guard standing at the door checking the ID of everything that tries to enter or exit. The below image will reflect what you will see when you navigate to firewall and network protection. Note, each network may have different status icons for you. What is the difference between the three, which is domain, private, and public? Per Microsoft, Windows Firewall offers 3 firewall profiles: domain, private, and public. Domain, the domain profile applies to networks where the host system can authenticate to a domain controller. Private, the private profile is a user-assigned profile and is used to designate private or home networks. Public, the default profile, is a public profile used to designate public networks such as Wi-Fi hotspots at coffee shops, airports, and other locations. If you click on any firewall profile, another screen will appear with 2 options: turn the firewall on or off, and block all incoming connections. Warning: unless you are 100% confident in what you are doing, it is recommended that you leave your Windows Defender firewall enabled. Yep, for sure. You can view the current settings for any firewall profile. In the above image, several apps have access in the private and/or public firewall profile. Some of the apps will provide additional information if it's available via the Details button. Advanced settings. Configuring the Windows Defender firewall is for advanced Windows users. Refer to the following Microsoft documentation on best practices here. Tip: command to open the Windows Defender firewall is wf.msc. Task 6 is App and Browser Control. In this section, you can change the settings for the Microsoft Defender Smart Screen. Per Microsoft, Microsoft Defender Smart Screen protects against phishing or malware websites and applications, and the downloading of potentially malicious files. Refer to the official Microsoft document for more information on Microsoft Defender Smart Screen here. Check apps and files. Windows Defender Smart Screen helps protect your device by checking for unrecognized apps and files from the web. Exploit protection. Exploit protection is built in Windows 10 and in our case Windows Server 2019 to help protect your device against attacks. Warning, okay, yeah, you get it. Unless you know what you're doing, don't do it. Task 7, Device Security. Even though you'll probably never change any of these settings, for completion's sake, it will be covered briefly. Core isolation. Memory integrity, which prevents attacks from inserting malicious code into high security processes. Warning, unless you are, okay, yeah, that's the same thing. The below images are from another machine to show another security feature that should be available in personal Windows 10 device. Security processor. And it says your security processor, called the Trusted Platform Module, or TPM, is providing additional encryption for your device. Below are the security processor details. What is the Trusted Platform Module, TPM? Per Microsoft, Trusted Platform Module, TPM technology, it is designed to provide hardware-based, security-related functions. A TPM chip is a secure crypto processor that is designed to carry out cryptographic operations. The chip includes multiple physical security mechanisms to make it tamper-resistant, and malicious software is unable to tamper with the security functions of the TPM. Task 8 is BitLocker. I've heard a lot about BitLocker. Per Microsoft, BitLocker Drive Encryption is a data protection feature that integrates with the operating system and addresses the threats of data theft or exposure from lost, stolen, or inappropriately decommissioned computers. On devices with TPM installed, BitLocker offers the best protection. Per Microsoft, BitLocker provides the most protection when used with a Trusted Platform Module (TPM) version 1.2 or later. The TPM is a hardware component installed in many newer computers by the computer manufacturers. It works with BitLocker to help protect user data and ensure that a computer has been tampered with while the system was offline. Refer to the official Microsoft documentation and learn more about BitLocker here. Note, the BitLocker feature is not included in the attached VM. Task 9 is Volume Shadow Copy Service. Per Microsoft, the Volume Shadow Copy Service, VSS, coordinates the required actions to create a consistent shadow copy, or also known as a snapshot, or in a point-in-time copy of the data that is to be backed up. Volume shadow copies are stored on the System Volume Information folder on each drive that has protection enabled. If VSS is enabled, System Protection turned on, you can perform the following tasks from within Advanced System Settings. 1 is to create a restore point, 2 perform system restore, 3 configure restore settings, and 4 delete restore points. From a security perspective, malware writers know of this Windows feature and write code in their malware to look for these files and delete them. Doing so makes it impossible to recover from a ransomware attack unless you have an offline, off-site backup. If you wish to configure shadow copies within the attached VM, see below. Shadow copies allow users to view contents of shared folders as the contents existed at a previous point in time. For information on shadow copies, click here. Yeah, I need to be doing that. Bonus, if you wish to interact hands-on with VSS, well, everything's on the cloud now, but I still need to make backups in case I screw up this laptop. Bonus, if you wish to interact hands-on with VSS, I suggest exploring Day 23 of Advent of Cyber 2. Task 10 Conclusion. In this room, we covered several built-in Windows security tools that ship with the Windows OS to help keep the device protected. There is still so much to explain and cover regarding the Windows OS. As mentioned in the Windows Fundamentals 1 room, this content is aimed at those who wish to understand and use the Windows OS on a more comfortable level. To learn more about the Windows OS, you'll need to continue the journey on your own. Further reading material is Anti-Malware Scan Interface, Credential Guard, Windows 10 Hello, and CSO Online, the best new Windows 10 security features, which, yeah, this whole module is out of date. So it's now Windows 11. Note, attackers use built-in Windows tools and utilities in an attempt to go undetected within the victim environment. This tactic is known as living off the land. Refer to the following resource here to learn more about this. So that's that's all of pre-security, this last section. And once you finished pre-security on TryHackMe, the whole learning path, you often will get a certificate, and this is my certificate here. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a wonderful day. Goodbye.